It's a great pleasure seeing all of you at this afternoon. If you paid attention in Sundar's keynote, among all these wonderful announcements was a very small, petite announcement pertaining to education. Sundar announced what we call a Nano Degree, online education for Android development, which means anybody in the room who is either an Android developer or aspires to be an Android developer or wants to work for Google or one of its partner companies now has an opportunity to learn from the best of the best what it means to be a top-notch Android developer. We put together a short video which I want to show you about it.
The reason why I'm an Android developer is because of the platform's massive reach. Building for Android means that you can build something here and it will reach people all the way across the world. In fact, the next billion people coming online will interact with the internet for the very first time using only a mobile device. There's so many people who are consumers of technology, but I think it's so much more powerful to be a creator of technology. Everyone has unique experiences and strengths, and they can draw on that and use that to identify problems in their community and then use technology to solve that. I really feel like there's a big opportunity to show people that they can create something really amazing. You can imagine something that you think should exist, and you can actually go and build it. I can't think of anything more powerful than that. You can start your journey to become an Android developer today with Udacity and Google's Nano Degree.
The person who first and foremost deserves credit is actually sitting over there in the first row. Peter, want to get up for a second? This is Peter Lubbers, who put together a wonderful team of Googlers to really bring education to everybody, not just knowledge and information, but education. And he teamed up with my startup company called Udacity to really change education. So let's go back a few years and tell you the story of how we came about. About 4 years ago, I was busy raising Google X, working on self-driving cars, contact lenses that could measure your glucose level, balloons in the stratosphere. In fact, there's a parallel talk right now about Project Loon, and many other things, Google Glass. When Peter Norvig, who was speaking about half an hour about education, and I decided to take a Stanford class online. I was teaching in my free time at Stanford, an advanced artificial intelligence class. And following Sal Khan and many other people I admire, we decided to make it available for the world, not just Stanford students. So here's our context of this. At that time, colleges were under fire. They had raised tuition rates by about 7.5% for 30 consecutive years. The nation was facing a credit card debt of more than $1 trillion. And the return of investment seemed just not to be there to get a college education. So when Peter and I decided to take this online for free, we started inevitably and unintentionally a movement called Massive Open Online Courses, or MOOC. Many other companies followed, edX, Coursera, iVersity, and many others. The thing that blew us away was the sheer size that you could reach by going online. Now, for all of you, it's completely obvious. From libraries to Google, it's just completely obvious. It's a 100,000 times as big a market, 100 million times as big a market. But for education, very few people had really attained global scale in education. To make a long story short, the numbers that came out of this class were staggering. 160,000 students signed up in a short period. 23,000 finished. This is a graduate level artificial intelligence class. There is not 160,000 people in the world who care about AI. We had an army of 1,950 volunteer translators that translated the course into 44 languages in 195 countries. This became the biggest course ever taught in the history of colleges. In fact, I taught more students in this class than I can teach at Stanford in 50 lifetimes. The cost of doing this, the cost of building the engineering, recording all the videos and exercises, and paying all the fees for our service providers was 60 cents per student. Compare this to a $50,000 a year Stanford tuition rate. What's even more staggering to me was ranking the online students with my Stanford students. To remind you, Stanford students go through an ardent process of admission. To get in, you have to be wicked smart, the right age, the right SAT scores, and a wonderful statement, all these things. And even then, only a few thousand students get in every year. So there ought to be the smartest kids on the planet. However, when we compared, based on identical homework assignments and exams, online students with those Stanford students, the top 412 students were online. And the strongest of 200 Stanford students ranked number 413. As the course unfolded, and I'm going to read this for you, students started writing me letters, like this one. And I'm going to start at the third paragraph. I'm completing the course from remote areas of Afghanistan and often don't have great internet connectivity or electricity or internet connections that wouldn't block YouTube. I spent the last few days under incoming mortar and rocket attacks, then dodging checkpoints under questionable legal status to exfiltrate a war zone to a third world airfield until things settled down. I had about an hour of fairly solid internet connectivity to be able to get the assignments done and still manage a respectable score. This is a typical week for me here. This wasn't a typical Stanford student. This was a brave soldier fighting for a good cause and trying to work on a future past his military life. This lady works 40+ hours a week. She's a single mother of 2, and her younger child is only 7 months old. She has no time to concentrate or to dedicate, and she's been hanging on to a class by her fingernails, waiting to learn and to feel a sense of accomplishment. Just before homework 5 was due, I suffocated another series of great chaotic difficulties. There's a long story, but basically, baby has been sick, and someone of her relatives lost their home, and the life became really miserable. Why am I telling you so much personal stuff? Because on November 13, I gave up. I told myself that it was ridiculous to think I could justify continuing this class, taking this time, given all the other problems that surrounded me. And then that Monday morning, I checked my email and I saw the note you sent me Saturday, and I stared at it for a while. And then I sighed and told myself, I can't quit now. I took the midterm exam, she finished, and she finished the course. Now, unbeknownst to her, I had sent every student who was late an email, about 40,000, which prompted about 40,000 personal responses like those, which I didn't all read. But still, there was a moment here where I really had to pause and think, at Stanford, I teach these wonderful kids who are already extremely privileged. And I'm really ignorant to the rest of the world of people that possibly need me much more, like single mothers raising children wanting to re-enter the workforce. And she's not alone. Here's a video that made me cry.
Hello, my name is Melody Bliss, and I was an advanced track student at Stanford for their online Introduction to Artificial Intelligence class, taught by Professors Sebastian Thrun and Peter Norvig. I am also a disabled woman going through dialysis 3 times a week. In addition, I am still working full-time as a systems engineer for a local company. Because of this, I went to this class knowing that I would have serious constraints upon my time, and that gave me some trepidation going into the class, since there would be many days where, due to the dialysis or other factors, I just would not have the energy to even watch a short video. The enthusiasm that the professors exhibit, however, throughout the class engages you, energizes you, and affects you with the same enthusiasm for the subject. The short lectures with quizzes helps you realize that yes, you are understanding the material, and if you realize that you are not, it is easy to go back and review the information until suddenly you get that light bulb over your head effect. What I love most about this class, however, is how it has given me new ideas and how I could possibly implement AI practices in the work that I do today. This has been one of the best classes that I have ever taken, and in my opinion, a wonderful use of the time that I hold precious to me. So I urge you, if you are considering taking this class, to do so. It has changed my life, and I believe it can change yours too.
Thank you. Still getting moved when I see this, and I've seen it many times. This was the beginning when I realized there's a mission here, something we do not well in society. Education is unevenly distributed. We have the wrong model of education, and we don't reach everybody. So it was time for me to wake up and do something about it. So we started Udacity, which comes from the English word audacity, with a singular mission to truly democratize education. We believe if you give a man a fish, or the woman, the person has dinner for one night, but you teach him or her how to catch fish, they have food for the rest of their lives. We believe education is the single most important thing and should be a basic human right codified in the Constitution, the right to free education. Thank you. The very first thing in trying to go global was to think about what is the delivery method. And physical classrooms don't scale very well. So we decided to launch on Android, on mobile platforms, on web browsers, to reach the 3.7 billion people who are already connected to mobile or the web today. We decided to focus a lot on international students. I'm putting this picture up because Google has just announced an initiative to translate 6 Google-led and Google-developed classes into Arabic and launch career centers on the ground in Egypt and issue 2,000 scholarships to students in Egypt. What makes me particularly excited about that initiative is that, especially in the Arabic world, there's a lack of opportunity for young people. And by creating reputable, Google-led, state-of-the-art instruction, we can possibly give young people a path to be productive members in the Western world, which I think will really change the course of this geographic region. To quote my friend Thomas Friedman, who visited my company recently, Thomas Friedman is a New York Times columnist. He said, look, if there's better education, there'll be less reason to do things like terrorism for some people in these countries. Thanks. In terms of going global, Google and Udacity have a long history of working together. We started about 3 years ago, and we let students sign up for our classes. We have a freemium product, which I'll explain in a sec. And we signed up just south of 900,000 students already. Not all these students finish, but we have a portfolio of classes that we teach students anything between HTML5, game development, proper app development, Android, and many other things. And that's just the beginning. With today's announcement, or yesterday's announcement, we extended it to include certification, and we created the Nano Degree, which I'll talk about in a second. The next thing we decided to do is we wanted to make it fun. To me, sitting in a class with 500 other students, watching an aging professor on stage, telling me the same story every year out in and out again is just not fun. There's many reasons to go to college that are fun. That is not one of them. So we wanted to make learning fun. And we wanted to use the internet to make it as fun as possible. One of the things that you realize is in a physical classroom, you're forced to take everybody at the same thought at the same time, just the way I'm doing it with you right now. In the online world, it's completely okay if people go at a different pace. That means you can make education much more interactive. You can wait for a student, and you can make it more like a video game. We decided to put a very strong project focus on education, and I want to show you some of the projects that people have built. There's a huge number of interesting projects, but I just took these two out in the graphics class, and these are students who'd never programmed graphics before. So here's what's called the Musical Turk. Here you go. So this is a student who's just taking his first graphics class and decided to build just a really fun app. And he's obviously a music lover, so I can pick my favorite composer. And you can pre-guess what you're about to hear by looking at the picture. This is Liszt, Franz Liszt. Second project that I dug out, again, a student city who's never done graphics before. Typically takes a while to load, and it's not perfect yet, but this is a city driving project which integrates head tracking. So here I'm in a car, and if everything goes well, I can activate my own camera and move my head left, right, left, and then drive this car through the city just using my head. Okay, I'm not very good at this. That's one of the reasons why I actually worked on self-driving cars, because I'm a lousy driver. But I found it just amazing how students really build these really amazing applications. Oops, I'm dying. Let's go back to the presentation. So we decided, like, projects are so much better than lectures. You get to do something, build something. But to become a really good project person and build a portfolio, you need feedback. So we needed people. So we started hiring. And hiring is hard. We hired dozens of people that would sit at Udacity and grade all these projects. And the company, when we launched Nano Degree, started growing almost astronomically, roughly 5% every week. We couldn't hire that fast. So our projects fell back, and it took us 2 weeks to grade them, just like colleges. And then we got students complaining I'm paying a monthly fee for a 2-week delay. You guys are getting rich on my advantage. And then we decided to follow the model that Travis at Uber and Lyft and Airbnb and many others had developed, where your workforce becomes global. We decided to democratize not only the learning part, but also the TAing of classes, the code reviewing. We built a global code reviewer network, and beginning to build a global mentor network, where people all around the world would now be able to grab these projects the same way an Uber driver grabs your request for a ride, and then grade it really fast and turn it around and give it to the student. And the student would assess the quality of the grading, and we would then compensate the grader in correspondence to the work and the quality of the workmanship. We launched this just 2 or 3 months ago. We now have about 350 or so worldwide graders. They're in all countries. It's amazing. They turn around projects almost always within a day, mostly within an hour. So if you write your code and you put it on GitHub and you submit it to us, you get a detailed feedback within an hour. Anybody who's been at college say, oh my God, this is possible? And these people make real money. They make real money. Actually, some of them make more than me. So the monthly income of our best global code reviewer is more than $11,000, sits in South Africa, does it as a part-time job on the side over the weekends, makes more with us than with his main job. And I just put this graph up to compare the typical salary that the typical part-time instructor makes in a US institution, which is actually very, very low. And this big difference in earning potential is really the result of globalization, of true globalization. If we tear down the wall of colleges and open it up to the world, then we have an amazing ecosystem we can build about learners and people who help them to learn. Next, step 5. We decided the best opportunity that we have that no college ever has is to learn about our students. When we put up a new video, we do a new quiz, a new exercise, typically we have about 1,000 or so students at that same location, and we can get almost instantaneous data about people's learning abilities. This is just one graph. It graphs the student progress over time as they engage. Horizontal is time, vertical is progress. It's shocking. Most college students would be on a single line because you're forced to be on a single line. But once you let people loose, it's shocking to see that some students stop sleeping to finish the course as fast as possible. In fact, one student wrote a blog post about us and called the phenomena, the feeling of taking a class with us, binge learning. Which I loved because that's what it should be. Step 6, this is a big step for me. We wanted to make it relevant. And that's the reason why I'm here today and why we're working with Peter and his wonderful team. In areas, in ecosystems as fastly moving as Android, with more than 1 billion active Android users worldwide, many more, it's important that the education is fresh. And that is somewhat irreconcilable with tenure or with a primary research mission. I challenge everybody to find a good Android class in any college in this country at this point, or anywhere in the world. There might be a few. But by and large, the speed at which academia is able to adopt new technologies is slow. And very often, in places like Facebook and Twitter and others, when you come out of college, you have to be retrained to be suitable to be working in the 21st century. That isn't to say that colleges do a bad job, they're just very different. But we wanted to make it so it's really bleeding edge, that things announced at this conference are already available as a course in our new Nano Degree. So we teamed up with companies, and Google being a wonderful partner, and others, to really bring top-notch education to everybody. And then finally, we really wanted to focus on jobs. We believe that one of the core value proposition of education ought to be employment. So we created this new thing called Nano Degree. It never existed before. It's not accredited. There's no accreditation body. Colleges don't do it. It's a much smaller packaging size than a college degree. But it turns out there's also no law against inventing new degrees, luckily, so we could just do it. And we launched them. They're typically, think of them as like 6 months long. They can be faster. In principle, you could do it in a week. They can be slower. We care much more about mastery than meeting some artificial timelines. But if you spend 10, 15, 20 hours a week on this, and you come with the right starting knowledge, you should be able to complete it in 4 to 6 months, maybe 9 months. We launched iOS, front-end development, programming, web full-stack data analyst, and yesterday we announced Android developer. And we also announced that we are actively working on 3 more Google-led Nano Degrees: entrepreneurship, cloud development, and advanced web development. And I'm particularly proud of entrepreneurship because it's something that people outside the tech field can benefit from, and international people can benefit from. If you look at youth unemployment in Greece and Spain exceeding way past 50%, if we can teach them the tools to be digital entrepreneurs, we might be able to get them a dinner for the rest of their lives. We have numerous examples of people finding jobs. On the right side, you see a Googler, Kelly, who was a business analyst and is now a full-stack developer at Google and say the same company. Vicky in the center, she became a data engineer from a business analyst intern. Devun is a golf professional who by his own words says he wasn't quite good enough to make the cut. And he became a full-stack developer. We have working mothers who want to re-enter the workforce. And we have seed food managers who become software engineers. And there's a really strong vision here, I believe. When education was invented, people believed that one education of a lifetime is enough. Today, people have many different careers, and what we with Google enable people to do is to go from here to here, to take this job over here, to be a high school teacher and be hired into Google. So here are some of our students.
Hi, I'm Dennis Shen. You can call me Dan.
My name is Martin.
A little about me. My name is Ubatari.
My name is Fabia.
Hello everyone, my name is Evgeny. I'm from Sochi.
I'm Dan Stormont.
I'm Jessa. I'm a software engineer from the Philippines.
My name is Gennady. I'm 27.
I always wanted to do the degree, but I could not afford moving out of my home city.
The existing system of education, I think, is pretty much ripe for disruption.
I decided to change paths and become a programmer.
I've been learning online for as long as I can remember.
It kind of redefined what I think is possible now.
I was amazed how much I could learn in a very short period of time.
Writing code is my passion and I enjoy it a lot.
The community is awesome. You get to help each other out to pass the course. You get to ask questions. You get to answer them too.
I find myself having the ability to think in different ways.
It was a problem in my daily job and my daily routine. So I tried to solve this problem with a piece of Python code. I solved my problem and I'm really happy about it.
Every day, I discover new things.
It's been life-changing.
And by the end of the course, I can build my own Android application.
I truly believe online learning is the future of education.
I got the position of Java developer in startup.
I manage the Google Developer Group and the Women Technicals Group in my university.
And you can also keep current on the things that you need for doing your job or just to be a part of modern society.
I adore programming and I have developed some applications.
I have a wonderful wife and a beautiful 1-year-old daughter, and I feel more motivated than ever to give my family a better life.
Every course has application in my daily job and gets me closer to my dream of creating my own startup.
Well, that was my story, and happy learning, guys.
So, how much does this cost? Well, in staying in tune with the idea of truly democratizing education and making it accessible to everybody, we made the decision that all our content, everything we build, is available online for free. So it's the equivalent of a free textbook. And I really want to give kudos to Google. Sundar yesterday in his keynote mentioned that there was a $4 million injection of money, and that was really the money it took to put together all the content, all the exercises and projects for the Android Nano Degree and beyond. However, as a startup company, it's not a good idea to give everything away for free. So we are truly a freemium business. The services we provide, where we pay our global code reviewers money, need, of course, financing from the side of the students. So we charge students who want code feedback and certification a $200 per month fee, tuition fee. Now that's a lot of money, but it's much less than you pay for pretty much any college in this country. Now, this month we announced for the May cohort and going forward that if students finish, they can ask for half the tuition back. And we did this. Thank you. Thank you. We did this because we want the students to go all the way to the end. And we incentivize every student to say, look, you make money back. Udacity has a scholarship program of 5,000 scholarships for students in need, financed in part by companies like AT&T. And Google, as I mentioned in the beginning, just announced 2,000 full scholarships for students in Egypt. And I hope that many Egyptian students will sign up for this. What many people don't know is Egyptian computer science students have a much higher female ratio than this country. And one of our goals is to really help diversify and bring everybody into computer science and software engineering, not just male, middle-aged men like myself. The last thing, thank you. The last thing that I found really amazing is that Laszlo Bock and his team at Google have committed to do a career summit in November. And this is really underlining the seriousness of this dedication. The Android Developer Nano Degree is not a beginner level, easy to do thing. It is serious education with serious sweat that we believe gets you to the level of a nice, completely competent Google employee in software engineering. And to underline this, 50 of the top Android Nano Degree finishers will be invited, all expenses paid, to Google campus in November to meet lots of Googlers, including Google's recruiters, to chat about careers and experience Google firsthand. I think Laszlo and Peter and their teams deserve a big applause for doing this, because it really sets the stage for possibly a new way of finding those 412 students that beat the single strongest Stanford student. Before I open up for Q&A, I want to also share with you one video that completely surprised me by my own company and that I've watched maybe 500 times. It is one of our professors, in this case a great colleague from Brown University, from Georgia Tech, getting creative in this medium that you wouldn't believe is possible. So let me go here. This is part of a Udacity class. This is Professor.
You got some data. I need to find a rule that can predict. You want a theta that works for any instance that you pick. It's Velvet's curse. The classifier needs to be.
All right. You can actually go online and see it. This course was actually instructed by two people, and the second person said he couldn't sing, so we got a role for him. Let's see.
Saves your day. But what a chilling plot this is to find the right hypothesis. You let your guard down one small bit. Oh no, it seems you've underfit. Like scary films in cinema, you're trapped in local minima.
All right. Questions? There's microphones here. Come forward, please. Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to make a question. I just want to say thank you, because girls like me can learn more about code. And this is very emotive for me, because 7 months ago, I didn't know anything about coding, and now I've got my own startup with 12,000 users in it. And I also belong to a community that is looking to for 7 to 11 years old girls to learn more about code. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please come visit us. Honestly, these are the moments that make me do what I want to do. Thank you.
I'm actually more of a database developer, which I actually started learning on my own for a job that I was, the company that I was working, or that my husband was working for, gave were willing to give me a chance to do that, which I know that's an incredible circumstance to end up in because most people don't have something like that. But I was wondering if, I've actually had quite a few women in my area ask me, how do you get into database development? What can I do about it? Do you guys have anything in the works that you might be looking to do that, or can I put a bug in your ear for that, or?
We have a class that we built with MongoDB, and we have several classes with Cloudera where we did data analysis. Some work with Salesforce, but no Nano Degree yet. And we'd love to have a Nano Degree. The model that's been working is that companies, mostly in Silicon Valley, come to us, knock on our door and say, look, this is an area we really think is really important. And then we answer those queries and say, let's get together and see what it would take, how big is the market size, who would be the typical student. And then we end up, after a few meetings, defining a curriculum that we believe is bleeding edge. We are definitely will put a lot of oil into the fire of building more content and more Nano Degrees, inside coding and outside coding, so we're extremely open to suggestions. My email is thrun@udacity.com, or thrun@stanford.edu. Please send me email, okay? Thank you. Yes.
Hey, Dan. So it's a really great product, and I'm curious if you have any aspirations. Most of the courses right now are technology related, for just a broader curriculum that isn't necessarily based on technology.
Yes. The reason why we focus on technology is I think it's good to be good in something that's confined first, and really work out the kinks. So also technology is one of the most employable areas today. With the entrepreneurship Nano Degree that we're building right now, we're branching out a little bit.
Right.
It's still technology-based in the sense that we believe that every entrepreneur has to know a lot about analytics and website domain and mobile and so on, but it's much more basic in some sense. As the company hopefully grows, we will look into adjacent areas. The thing we're probably never going to do is philosophy or art history. Or if we do it, I want to do it completely differently. I want to do it in a way that the people coming out of these humanities classes are absolutely employable by Facebook and Google and by tech companies, because I think there's a huge shortage of great humanity thinking in the tech field.
Sure.
But the way it's being taught today, in my opinion, is very separate, is very disjoined from what the workforce needs are. And Udacity's promise is really jobs. We really want people to find employment as a proxy for being contributing to society.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, over there.
Hi, so you've been a pioneer in this technology that we've seen sort of explode over the last couple of years. I've known people who have taken courses on edX and Coursera and Udacity, and it's changed all of their lives considerably. What do you see as the future of what are now these sort of fragmented online education courses like Khan Academy? There are some that appear to have very different educational areas, but do you see in the future, do you see education becoming more unified or separate across these companies, or what direction?
We certainly live right now in an area of great experimentation and education, and that's wonderful, honestly. It's been long overdue. And it's great to see so many companies engaging in the same space and trying to innovate and finding the right formula. It's completely obvious to me that 50 years from now, education will, what Larry Page often calls to be a toothbrush technology. We use twice a day for 5 minutes. It's completely obvious to me that the Prussian picture of childhood play, go educate yourself, work, and retire is obsolete, that we have to intermix these things and be lifelong learners. And that means education has to be available wherever you go, on your phone, on your watch, on your devices, and blend into a physical, busy life. And that's basically what we do and what other companies are doing. It's also completely obvious to me it's going to be open, democratic to everybody. We can't lock it up anymore. I think it's almost a crime that we have this amazing, great education in this country. We have the best education system in the world, and no one gets in, right? Almost nobody gets in. And it thrives on exclusivity, in that to keep your ratings up, you have to be exclusive. You can't be inclusive. So I think education in 50 years from now will be with us all the time, and it'll be an absolutely great thing to do instead of watching a movie, to go learn a skill that you can leverage to work and make yourself smarter. The path there, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, obviously, I'm putting my own time into my own company, and we're trying to do our very best job to reinvent everything from the basic credentialing system to the quality of the videos to the experience. But more important than my company winning is that somebody wins and really breaks into this big wall of existing education systems. Yes?
So there are claims that the completion rates of these online courses are really low. Is that correct? And if it's correct, have you seen any difference with such nano degrees?
Yes, so the massive open online courses have often been critiqued for completion rates typically in the order of 2 to 5%. And our numbers are the same. We, obviously, when we have paying students, we drive up completion, because if you pay money, you're more committed. But also we found that by offering intense services, mentoring services, tutoring services, and feedback, we drive up completion rate. I don't have a good number right now. I ran it for one of my own courses, which is a bit of an exaggeration, so it's not typical for our company. But I'm teaching a course how to program a self-driving car. It's a robotics class. And it's being taught as an open MOOC where we get a 2.3% finishing rate. And as a kind of a Udacity, in this case also Georgia Tech class, that is embedded in a degree, we get a completion rate north of 90%. I think our typical completion rates are more like 50% or so. And it's a factor of many things. It's a factor of the fact we have no admissions for our nano degrees, so people can just come. So many people are not well fit for the nano degrees. We're working on this. And the end of the nano degree now has a little admissions hurdle. We have to do a self-test. But also, I mean, overall, I think a 50% is certainly better than a 3%. And one of the things that my company cares a lot about, every person is bringing this up to 100%. We really care about educating not just the top of students who could perfectly learn from books, but also the bottom of students. So come visit Udacity, perhaps you sign up for one of the nano degrees, and then give us feedback how we can make it better. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rasha. I now take the front-end nano degree on Udacity. I actually won the sponsorship money through Udacity contest as well, which was awesome. I was wearing the cape in the photo that I participated in. That's what made me win. Anyway, I've been following up with Udacity, and it's amazing. I love how easy it is to actually build something useful through the course. So you actually are very proud by the end of the course because you built something. I was wondering, because you mentioned the partnership with Egypt, why that country? And is there any plans for localizing content, for example, making it available in Arabic?
Yeah, so the Egypt pilot involves a complete translations into Arabic, so that students not even proficient in English could completely experience the basic experience and take these courses. Google has subtitled their classes into 10 different languages, and we are between 1 and 10 languages for other courses. Obviously, the localization is a big part of going international. India, we have a lot of traction where many students already speak native English. And we have plans to open a China office and go into China later this summer to reach Chinese students. I'm specifically enthusiastic about Egypt. Google has a really great relationship with the Egyptian government. And the Egyptian government is very eager to empower its own people. So some of these things came together. But for us, it's a platform to reach much more than just Egypt. It's a platform to reach the entire peninsula and really reach a lot of people, maybe not everybody, but hopefully a lot of people who otherwise would have no chance to be a productive member in this society.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing. I'm a professor at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. I teach computer science and Android development, and so I'm the guy in a way that you're replacing, and that's okay.
We do have open requisitions right now, and we're not far from you. We pay well.
You pay well, probably better. I'm excited about what is happening. I mean, I can relate to what you're saying. It is very difficult for a professor to keep up with technology. I'm not a full-time Android developer. I teach a lot of courses. I get to teach Android, maybe once a year, one quarter, one course, and so it is a challenge. How do you see what you're doing integrating, or do you see it integrating at all? Can we leverage and work together in different ways? Do you mind if I use some of your content in some of my courses to scale my courses, things like that?
All our content you can use for free as much as you want. And if you charge tuition based on our content, please keep it, absolutely. I would say, I'm I'm really impressed. I know that there was an Android course in San Luis Obispo. I've seen very few in the nation, so a big kudos for teaching Android. This is actually great. This is actually remarkable because most professors teach what they did in their PhD thesis for the rest of their career, myself included when I was at Stanford. And things that come along as fast as Android typically are completely dismissed by academia. And as a result, students coming out don't have the skills that they would need, for example, to be productive on day one at Google. The truth is, our content is being used by many, many universities and many high schools and many colleges. In fact, Sal Khan started an elementary school, and my son is on it, and that school uses one Udacity class. So the kids, the 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds, are learning genomics on Udacity, which blows my mind. Our goal really is to reach as many people as possible, and we are very interested in feedback. So, for example, if you use materials in the classroom and find services that you offer or content useful, please come back to us. Tell us how you used it. Come visit us. Our goal really is to... Looks like it just lost sound. Maybe one last question in the interest of time. Right over here.
That's really funny timing, because my question was going to be how are professors and university college administrators reacting to this? So maybe you answered my question, but from your perspective, your colleagues or ex-colleagues, or how are people reacting to this? Are they seeing that there's a need to change traditional university education, or at least change the content, or try and keep up with content?
When you go out and think of something well established like academia and go to people and say, look, we can do for 60 cents what you guys charge $50,000 for, you don't just end up with friends. So if you do a Google search on my name about a year and a half ago, when we worked with a local university to make San Jose State's college education 10% as expensive as it is today, you'll find a few labor unions taking a little bit of an issue with me. It was manifold. One specific day, I bought the New York Sunday Times, and I wouldn't even have to flip over the first page. Above the fold, they called my work a flop, and the Financial Times said, we're going out of business. And I think the way it's coming out right now is actually really interesting. With all the rhetoric of replacing college, which of course hasn't happened, the main quote-unquote customer that we have is actually very different in demographics. The main customer we have are young professionals and middle-aged professionals and some high-age professionals, typically past college age. And the reason why that's the case is there's an enormous thirst for learning. A generation ago, employment lasted for a lifetime. Today, employment lasts for 4.6 years on average, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And tomorrow, it might just last for a year. Ad hoc employment through Airbnb and Uber doesn't necessarily last that long. So I think especially young people today are completely conscientious that they have to stay on top of things to be able to engage themselves. It's not okay anymore to just get one college degree and stay there. So the intersection between our current customers and college students at this point is virtually zero. And that has really calmed down the discussion quite a bit. So we're reaching people all around the world that existing colleges don't even want to reach. Existing colleges, we specialize on the age of 17 to 24, and they're doing a good job. There's nothing bad about going to college, nothing bad going to Stanford or San Luis Obispo Polytech. But we're ending up having this huge number of people that are currently completely excluded from the educational system. Well, in the interest of time, thank you so much. And one last shout out to Peter Lubers over here, stand up again, who's doing the work at Google and his team.